Today I want to talk through the top men's fashion trends coming up in 2025, according to experts. I wouldn't say I'm the biggest trend follower these days, but I do find it interesting and entertaining to follow what's going on in the trend world. People seem to enjoy it when I do these videos, and they can also be useful for inspiration. And I'm not anti-trend at all. I'm not against finding something new that I could add to my existing wardrobe. So I'm going to talk you through each trend in detail, show you some examples, and let you know my thoughts. Let's get into it. First up is jeans, but with a twist. It seems like the baggy jeans trend is going to continue in 2025. However, one difference might be the way they are constructed, with seams twisting around the leg rather than down the sides as we traditionally see. I've seen quite a few brands doing this already, and I do like it when it's done subtly. A good example are the twist jeans from Sunflower. They have that nice wide leg cut, and you can see the seam runs across the knee. I don't think the fit itself would be affected, but it's a nice little detail that I appreciate, similar to a front pleat. If you want to go much bolder, then these frayed twist jeans from Weekday might be for you. They're giving off proper cowboy vibes to me. However, I definitely wouldn't be able to pull these off. And I don't think I'd go out of my way to buy a pair of new jeans just because they have a different seam direction, but it does give a refreshed look to the baggy pants trend and could be worth looking into if you need some new jeans. Next up is one I've certainly seen grown in popularity, clasp closure jackets. I think the correct term is Fireman clasp. I'm guessing the quick release design is a safety feature for protective fire safety clothing. I could be making that up, by the way, I'm just making assumptions at this point. But if it is true, then as usual, we're seeing workwear translate well into everyday fashion. And I really like the look of these clasp jackets. It's something totally new for me. I've seen them before, but they've never been as well loved as they are today, in my lifetime anyway. I believe these were first popularised into mainstream fashion by Ralph Lauren in the 80s or 90s, and so you could actually find a lot of nice vintage ones for a decent price. So that's where I'd be looking if I was going to pick up one of these. I do like the asymmetrical look it gives you when the clasps are done up. Similar to the twisted seam jeans, that off-centre design just gives you a bit of a different vibe. And of course, who doesn't like some chunky metallic hardware on their outerwear pieces? The next one is chunky sole boat shoes. Regular boat shoes are timeless in my opinion and have always been on trend. And they've been particularly popular over the last 2 or 3 years with styles like quiet luxury. But they're not the most practical for everyday wear, especially around the city. And that's no surprise, they're made for boats, the clue's in the name. However, like we've seen with loafers, the solution to that is a chunky sole. And I think it works really well here. I remember ALD and Timberland did a boat shoe collab a few years ago with a chunky sole, and I was actually really tempted to buy them at the time. There's loads of options if you want some today. You could still go Timberland, they have plenty in their core range with a lug sole. I also think the Claymans would be a good shout as they're known for their quality. Or these suede ones from Vinnie's could be nice. Although boat shoes are casual with or without the chunky sole, you can dress them up quite nicely, and I think that's one of the reasons people are drawn to them, as well as the fact that they're a classic design. I feel like boat shoes are one of the few shoe designs I haven't tried yet, so maybe 2025 is the year for me. The next thing we'll apparently be seeing more of in 2025 is raw denim. Specifically raw denim that is still crispy and stiff, like when you get it as new. This is probably a response to the last few years where everything has been about distressed and aged looking clothes. When you get raw denim, it's a super dark indigo blue colour and it almost feels like cardboard. The raw denim look is definitely unique. The way it sits on your body gives you quite a rigid look, and I guess people are enjoying those straighter line fits. I've even noticed a few high street shops selling raw denim recently, like COS for example, which really surprised me, because raw denim is usually seen as a material for enthusiasts. It can take a lot of work to break in, but if you don't want to break it in, like in this case, then I guess that doesn't matter. I will say that I love the colour of raw denim. I've recently got some natural indigo raw denim selvage jeans from Naked and Famous, and they're stunning. However, I'm desperate to get them broken in and softened. I much prefer the worn in look, and it's way more comfortable as well. I'm also not really sure how you'd maintain a crispy raw denim look if that's what you specifically want, because they're inevitably going to soften up and fade with wear. If you're just after the deep indigo colour, then you can just pick up a pair of regular jeans from trustworthy brands like Levi's, Uniqlo, or even Abercrombie. So although I love raw denim, I won't be trying to keep mine looking new. I want them to be faded and broken in. This next one you should pay attention to if you often wear smarter clothes. Apparently pinstripe suits are making a comeback in 2025. I don't wear suits often, but I have definitely noticed that pinstripes have been out of the limelight for a number of years. It was kind of popular about 15 years ago, but then it started to look really dated. And I think a lot of that had to do with the lack of choice on the market. However, these days there are so many places to shop, and these newer pinstripe suits actually look really classy in my opinion. It's all about not overdoing it with stuff like this. You want the pinstripes to be a nice detail, not the main feature, because you risk looking like Beetlejuice. I think with the popularity of smart streetwear continuing to rise, we'll see more and more pinstripes, especially with suit jackets. I can see them being worn with a pair of jeans and some loafers. It's not something for me, to be honest. I don't think I could pull it off, but I think a lot of people can, and when they do, it looks great. Next up is something I'm not too familiar with, scuffed up jewellery. I say I'm not familiar with it because I just don't find myself wearing many accessories. I guess this roughed up look feeds into the distressed trend that has been so popular over the past few years. I suppose if you're wearing faded clothes, then it might look kind of strange to have a sparkling new necklace or rings on display. I sort of see this like clothing though. I prefer to find some old vintage jewellery that has been scuffed up from years of use, rather than buying new which is made to look old. I'm sure if you rummage through enough charity shops or thrift stores, you'll find plenty of roughed up accessories. This reminds me though, I do want to start wearing more accessories. Scuffed up or not, they add nice detail to any outfit. Next up is what they're calling practice jerseys. In the UK, we just call these football shirts, or soccer shirts for my American friends. In particular ones that are made to look like the older 70s and 80s jerseys. The reasoning for this is twofold. First, the vintage designs and colour palettes are just super nice. Big collars, lots of beiges, contrasting colour stripes, and weird patterns. And second is the fit. As with a lot of vintage clothing, older jerseys were made shorter in length, so you're getting that cropped look, which a lot of guys are loving these days, including myself. If you want to buy something new, Adidas very often sell vintage style soccer jerseys. I see them coming out with new designs all the time, very inspired by the 70s and 80s. Or an even better bet would be to find a true vintage one. They can be a bit pricey, but they will be truly unique, plus it's always exciting to have the real thing. No surprises here, but up next are baggy sweatpants. Baggy pants in general are still having a big moment, so no surprise to see the sweatpants getting involved here. In particular, ones that are not cuffed at the ankles, so they have a wide open hem that sits over your shoes. Uniqlo have a version of this at the moment, which is really hyped in their C collection, and apparently it keeps selling out. I'm not too sure because, to be honest, this look isn't really for me. I don't mind a slightly wider or relaxed leg, but only slightly. The weekday Ken pants are pretty much perfect for me. I wouldn't want to go any baggier than that. And I actually like sweatpants with a cuff. They look much better on me. Plus I find them more comfortable and practical. Sweatpant material shouldn't be dragging on the floor in my opinion. It just sucks up dirt and water. So baggy wide leg sweatpants are not something I'll be paying much attention to in 2025. Next up is something I will and have been paying attention to, studded belts. This isn't a shock to me. Studded or decorative belts have been massively on the rise over the past few years. I reckon a lot of that has to do with the Western style getting so much love. A lot of aspects of it have filtered down through to a lot of other styles, and flashy leather belts with big shiny buckles and studded jewel designs are a huge part of that. I just think belts are such a great accessory as well. They're practical and you can have a lot of fun with them without turning your outfit into something ridiculous. Our Legacy are an obvious choice if you want something more subtle. Toga Virilis and Needles have some flashier examples if that's your style. Or of course, go vintage and find yourself a proper cowboy belt. One of my most asked about belts is an old Western style belt that my dad gave me, which has no brand name. There's plenty of similar ones around, so go out there and have fun. Next, I remember this one being on last year's trend list, Crewneck Cardigans. I didn't actually see much of them in 2024, but I am certainly seeing more and more of them this year. Perhaps it just took a little while for them to begin filtering into the mainstream. I think what I said last year was that I like the look of these done up because you get that complete crewneck collar design. But if they were worn undone, then they might look a bit weird with that crewneck flapping about without a proper collar. And I pretty much stand by that comment. I've seen plenty of these and they do look great when worn with the buttons done all the way up to the top. And I like the idea of undoing a few of the bottom ones to give you that inverted V, like you can do with a double zipper. So if I did get one of these, I'd only ever wear it done up, at which point I might as well just get a jumper or a sweater. I'm not sure, I'm feeling a bit conflicted on this one. I may just stick to my regular cardigans, which can be worn open or closed without looking weird. The next thing is basically old school Gorpcore. What I mean by that is things your granddad or great granddad would have worn outside to stay dry and warm before Gore-Tex was invented. So think wool, corduroy, waxed cotton and fleece. I really like the idea of this, and it's actually something I've been incorporating more and more into my own wardrobe. Thick, heavyweight and rugged outerwear. Some of my favourites are the 100% Irish wool Aran knit jumper, my Blue de Choff fisherman jumper which I'm wearing now, or my vintage Woolrich hunting coat. Or for something a bit lighter, the Patagonia Chinchilla snap tee fleeces, which are easy to find secondhand for a bargain price. I've also seen a lot of brands coming out with thick rib knitted tops, which I think are heavily inspired by this style. These kinds of pieces always look classic, and of course they keep you extremely warm. I actually don't mind the idea of mixing these pieces with something modern, like a Gore-Tex jacket. I know it's not the point of this trend, but actually the old and new work very well together to keep you as warm and dry as possible. Here's another one that was definitely in last year's list and is carrying over to this year: small watches. The emerging winner from this has without a doubt been the Cartier Tank. It's the watch that every other watch wants to look like these days. That rectangular design still looks very fresh when compared to your typical round face watches, despite it being around since 1917. It gives you a timeless look, which is also very fashion forward, and the smaller form factor just looks so much classier on people. When you start to compare it to today's size watches, it makes you realise how absurdly big modern watches are. I don't know how it ever got to that. The Tank is pretty much the perfect watch both in design and size. If I was ever to seriously get into the watch game, that's the one I would be buying. Although if you're not ready to spend that amount of money, and I don't blame you, then Casio actually have quite a convincing alternative that could fill the void for very little cost. The next one is a bit generic: zip-up sweaters. I think they're referring to high neck sweaters, whether that be full zip or quarter zip, or pieces with zippers where you'd usually find buttons, like cardigans for example. I talked about this capital zip-up cardigan in my last video, which I'm still tempted to get. It's always nice to have a zip-up, especially this time of year when it's cold outside but warm inside, giving you that versatility to stay warm or cool down. And I especially like the double zippers, which you can have fun with to give you a different look. I'm also just a zipper nerd in general. If something has a sturdy YKK, Riri or Lambo zipper, then it makes me unusually happy. I think it's just a show of quality, and they look good as well. But yeah, not much else to say on this one. Zips are cool. So there's some of the biggest trends coming up in 2025, apparently. What do you guys think of these? Is there anything you're going to be picking up? Do let me know down in the comments, and also remember that I've left a bunch of links to all the pieces I've talked about in today's video. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Ta-ra.